So now when you're given an equation and it's just y equals some number, well, when it's y equals some number, the slope is going to be 0. And when the slope is 0, remember when the slope is 0, it has a horizontal line. So when you're doing this, you're going to go to where the y value is, and you're going to draw a horizontal line. So a way of remembering this is that y creates a horizontal line, or the horizon, so that when you're doing a y equals some number, you're going to go to the y value and you're going to draw a horizontal line. So when you have an equation that has x equals a value, some number, a, it's undefined, our slope. Our slope is undefined. And when our slope is undefined, we have a vertical line. So kind of another way of remembering this is if you have x equals a number, x can kind of create a vertical line, and that vertical line is what the picture is going to look like. So let's see an example. We're asked to graph the equation of the line y equals a negative 2. The slope of y equals a negative 2 is equal to 0. So when the slope is 0, that means that I'm going to have a horizontal line. I go to where y is negative 2 and I draw my horizontal line. My next example is when I have x equals a number, and in this case x equals 1. I need you to understand that when you have x equals a number, the slope is undefined. When the slope is undefined, we have a vertical line. So you're going to go where x is 1 on the axis, and you're going to draw a vertical line. Pause and try. The slope here is 0. We're going to have a horizontal line at negative 5. Pause and try. The slope here is undefined. We're going to have a vertical line where x is 5. We're going to be working with the slope formula to find the slope of a line. If you're given 2 points, you can find the slope of the line by using this formula. Now again, the slope is made up of the rise over the run. And the rise is our y values, and the run is our x values. So you'll be given 2 points, or you can choose 2 points on a line and find the slope for that line. And the first point is labeled x1, y1. The second point is x2, y2, indicating that they're 2 separate points. Now, key note here is, if we have an x2 minus an x1 equal to 0, then our slope is undefined, because you can never have 0 in the denominator, or you can't divide by 0. So if we get 0 in the denominator here, we end up with an undefined slope. So now when we're trying to find the slope of the line and we're given 2 points, we're going to be using the slope formula. Now the slope formula, what I like to do when I'm given 2 points is label my x1, y1 and my x2, y2, so I don't reuse a value. And I'm going to take that information and I'm going to substitute it into the formula and evaluate. So I'm going to substitute this information in, and be careful because it's always minus. It's y2 minus y1, it's x2 minus x1. So when you have a minus as one of the values and it's plugged in, you're going to see you might get a double negative, and that double negative will turn to a positive. So you see here I substituted in x2, which is 7, minus the x1, which is a negative 3. That's creating that double negative. And then my y2 is a negative 2, and my y1 is 4. So now I'm going to do the evaluation, the arithmetic here, and that double negative is going to change to a plus, so I'm going to end up getting a negative 6 over positive 10. So now I have the slope of the line, and whenever you're given a slope that is a fraction that can be reduced, you have to reduce the fraction. If you do not reduce the fraction, the slope will be, or the answer will be incorrect because it always wants it in reduced form. So the slope here, in this case, would be a negative 3 over 5. So always remember to reduce if you have to. Pause and try. So again, I like to label my points, and it doesn't matter which one's the x1, y1, x2, y2 of the points, but you have to make sure that the x1 is the x position in the order pair, and the y1 is the y position in the order pair. And now you're going to take that information and substitute it into the formula, and you should have gotten 2 over 2, and that will simplify to 1. So we don't end up with a fraction for this slope, we end up with a whole number, 1. So now we're going to be writing equations of the line. And when we write equations of the line, there's a couple equations of the line that are very simple if you know these certain rules. The first one is if you're given a point and it's going to be some x value, some y value, a number, it's going to be an x value, a y value, and you're given that the slope is 0. Now what you need to know is when the slope is 0, it is a horizontal line, and when you have a horizontal line, the equation of the line is y equals, and it's going to be y equals whatever the y value is. So if we have a slope is equal to 0, to write the equation of the line, it's going to be y equals, and you're going to look for the y value, and that's what goes into the y value spot. Now, if you have the slope is undefined, remember when the slope is undefined, it is a vertical line, and when you have a vertical line, the equation of the line is x equals whatever the x value is in the order pair. So these are a couple quick notes that write equations easily just by knowing these rules. And then also, if you're given the y-intercept and you're given the slope, you can write the equation of the line using the information that's given. Now remember, when you're given the y-intercept, 0 is the x value. We know we have the y-intercept if we have 0 for x. So that's a key note. If you have an order pair and there's a 0 in the x spot, then you have the y-intercept. If you're given the y-intercept and the slope and you're asked to write the equation of the line, you'll take the slope that's given, you'll plug it in to the m value in the y equals mx plus b, and then you'll take the y value in the order pair and substitute it into the b. And it only works when we're given the y-intercept and our x value is 0. So when you have the x value 0, we have the intercept, we can plug in the y value for the b, and we plug in the slope. Now remember, you always have to have the x variable in the y equals mx plus b. So let's see what this one would look like. So if I'm asked to write the equation of the line with the slope negative 3/2 and the y-intercept is 0, 5, I have my y-intercept and I have the slope. And I'm going to plug it into the y equals mx plus b. So I'm taking the slope, I'm taking the y value in the order pair, and that's going to be my b, my intercept. And all I'm going to do to write the equation with this information is substitute it into the m and the b, and I have my equation of the line. So this equation of the line, when the slope is a negative 3/2 and the order pair is 0, 5, my equation would equal y equals a negative 3/2 x plus b. So this is the equation of a line given the slope and the y-intercept. Pause and try. So you have the y-intercept and you have a slope, so your equation of the line would be y equals 3/4 x plus 4. Pause and try. So remember, when the slope is 0, it's going to be y equals whatever the y value is, and in this case my y value is a negative 1. So the equation of the line for when the slope is 0 is y equals a -1. Pause and try. So when the slope is undefined, it's x equals whatever the x value is in the order pair. So the x value in the order pair is 12. So the solution or the equation of the line would be x equals 12. So now when you're not given the three scenarios we just worked with, and you're given a point and a slope, or the slope and a point, you can use the point-slope form to find the equation of the line. And how it works is you're going to take the slope and plug it into the m of the formula, and you're going to take the points that you're given, the x1, y1, and substitute it into the x1 of the formula and the y1 of the formula, and then you're going to solve for y. So let's see what this looks like. So we're asked to write the equation of line in slope-intercept form that contains the point 3, -5 and the slope 2/3. So now I'm asked to write the equation of line. I always check, do I have the intercept, the y-intercept, and I don't, because in the x spot I don't have a 0. And then I check, is my slope 0 or undefined? And it is not. So therefore I have to use the point slope form to find the equation of the line. So the next thing I'm going to do is take the information and plug it into the point slope form. Now again, my point is made up of x and y, so my x1 is going to be the 3 and my y1 is going to be that -5. And I'm going to put the slope, the 2/3, into my m. So I substitute everything in, and again, you're going to leave that y as is, and you're going to leave that x inside the parentheses as is, and substitute in the m, the x1, and the y1. Now that you have it substitute in, you're going to have to solve for y. So now when you're solving for y, you have to notice that when you have a -y1, you're going to have a double negative, and that's going to change to a plus. So you end up with y plus 5, and then you're going to have to do the distributive property. So you have to do the distributive property in order to solve for y, and you have a fraction on the outside. So when I distribute that 2/3 to x, I'm going to end up with 2/3 x. But be careful, when you distribute that 2/3 to that -3, it's a fraction times a whole number. So 2/3 times a -3, you could put that -3 over 1, simplify and multiply across. So notice that the 2/3 times 3 over 1, the 3's would cancel and you'd be left with 2. So you end up with a -2. So that's where that's coming from. And now you still need to solve for y, so you need to get y by itself, which means you have to move that +5 over to the other side of the equal sign, and to move it, you're going to do the opposite, which is subtract. And you can subtract it from the constant, that -2, and then you'll have your equation of the line. So the equation of the line, when a point with a point 3, -5 that has a slope 2/3, you end up with y equals 2/3 x minus 7. Pause and try. So again, you're substituting it into the point slope form, and we end up with y minus 2 equals 1/9 parentheses x minus 9. You're going to do the distributive property. Keep in mind you have 1/9 times 9, which is going to turn to a 1. And then you're going to solve for y. You add 2 over. So the equation of the line here would be y equals 1/9 x plus 1. Pause and try. So again, you could use the point slope form here, but remember, when the slope is 0, it's simply y equals, and whatever the y value is in the point. So in this case, the solution or the equation is y equals 5. Pause and try. So you have to know the rule here. When the slope is undefined, it's x equals whatever the x value is, and in this case the x value is 6, so the equation of the line is x equals 6.